I'm so glad to be chatting with you tonight. It's been a few weeks. I've been traveling and I have so much that I want to share that I'll share in this Facebook Live and then in subsequent Facebook Lives and videos and blog posts and all of that good stuff. So I hope that you had an amazing 4th of July holiday and that you're enjoying your summer. And one of the things that I want to talk about today is our masculine energy and our feminine energy. And a lot of times we think that we just need one or the other, or we shame ourselves like, oh, I have a high-powered job and I'm really in my masculine, like that makes me bad. And no, it doesn't. It just means that that's a skill and an energy and a part of you that you've developed more than maybe other parts of you. And that's fine. You know, it's kind of like building a muscle. Sometimes we just get strong in one area and we forget to cross-train, as you would say it. So I was just in Egypt. I was in Egypt for 2 weeks and then I was in Italy for a week. In Italy, we were there for a friend's wedding with Jason and I, and it was also kind of like a little baby moon because I am almost 6 months pregnant. I'm entering my 6th month of pregnancy, which is super exciting, and that was wonderful. When we were in Italy, we not only got to see our friend's wedding, we got to officiate the wedding. So I was telling my little baby Ruby in my womb, like, you've already officiated a wedding. It was really cool. It was really cool to officiate with Jason and both be able to share in that special moment. And then after the wedding, we went to a different part of Italy where one of my clients lives, and her name is Alicia, and she's amazing. She lives in this town called Guardia San Formondi, and it's outside of Naples. Anyway, it was delicious. It was amazing. Anytime that I travel, I try to see my clients who are living in that area, and it was so special to be able to see her and amazing to see her little town and her region. But before that, I was on a trip in Egypt, and that trip was all about integrating our masculine and feminine to awaken our highest gifts. It was a very special trip, and it really illuminated for me how this idea of masculine and feminine is really important when it comes to dating. And a lot of people out there maybe misconstrue feminine energy. They think that it's passive or soft or weak, or they misconstrue masculine energy and think that it's all about, excuse me, you know, like doing business or doing things that are externally seen as masculine, you know, athletics or all of that. And the reason this is really important is because I believe the next wave, the next revolution, the next chapter of relationships in society is really about integration. So a lot of the work that I do with women is to help them feel comfortable in their feminine energy because they've probably pushed it down or suppressed it. Because culturally, we really prioritize the masculine, and that looks like, you know, achievement, sometimes at all costs, being really active, crossing off your to-do list, not showing any emotion, you know, all of those things. And thankfully that's changing because true masculine is about feeling everything and being able to hold ourselves, create a container and safety and boundaries so we can feel everything and so we can have flourishing relationships. And what I found on the retreat, which was really cool, is that we spent the first half really working with our feminine energy, and we spent the second half working more with our masculine energy. And in the first half, when we were working more with the feminine energy, there were men and women on the trip. It was amazing to see the energy of the group and the energy within each of us. I have jet lag, sorry, put my foot in my mouth. Within each of us. And that energy tended to feel a little more fluid, but it wasn't soft. It wasn't timid. Yes, feminine energy can be soft, but the clear kind of message that was coming through for the group in totality was about being bold, you know, giving ourselves permission to really be bold and fully expressed and to be not hiding or feel like we have to play small and to really honor the size of our desires and our vision. You know, because we've been suppressed in the feminine for so long, a lot of times we settle. So if you've settled in a date or relationship, or if you've settled for a certain type of behavior in a partner, or if you've settled for a job that's not meaningful, you know, there's so many ways in our life that we just settle. We forget about the size of our desire, and we forget that it's good for us to be bold. We want to, you know, fit in. We want other people to like us. We want to get by, so to speak. And that's not always living in our fullest feminine truth, which is expressive and bold and visionary, and it changes, you know. There's so many different feminine archetypes and masculine archetypes too, but I find that the feminine has way more range and way more nuance, you know, between all the different faces of the feminine. It might look fiery and powerful, or it might look nurturing and fertile, or it might look mysterious and, closed off, or it might look playful and joyful. And these aren't just about in our gender, it's just the types of energy. And really the purpose of the feminine is to live out our fullest values, to live a life that's in alignment with our desires and with our values, to not give up on our vision and not give up on our desires because of society, to break out of that mold, so to speak. And what the masculine does is the masculine helps us to feel safe in doing that. So the masculine is about courage and strength and healthy boundaries and protection and really standing strong in who we are so that we can flourish, so that we can express ourselves in the fullest way through our feminine. And the way that this looks in relationships is that if we're tending to be, making ourselves small or feeling shy or feeling like we can't, although there's nothing wrong with being shy, but feeling like we can't be fully expressed or it's not okay to be bold, we're going to put up not only with settling and bad behavior, but we're also going to attract partners who can't really see us and who therefore can't really love us the way that we want to be loved. I remember so many times being in relationships that weren't really relationships. I was just dating someone for a few weeks or a few months and hoping that it would become exclusive and committed, but it didn't. And one of the hardest things about those relationships when they ended, their so-called relationships, was knowing that I didn't really play full out. I wasn't really my true self. If the guy talked about liking a certain sort of music, I would just go along with it and be like, oh yeah, that's cool, instead of being like, oh, I don't like that music, here's the music I like. I was always kind of accommodating or placating or stuffing down who I was in order to not be rejected. So I had a huge fear of rejection and a huge fear of abandonment, and it prevented me from really allowing my feminine nature to shine through. And I had a really well-developed masculine from a work perspective, but I hadn't developed a sort of healthy inner masculine that allowed me to feel safe in being who I was in the world and expressing myself and not giving a crap if someone rejected me or abandoned me, because then clearly they're not the right person for me. So I was over-indexed in my masculine, under-indexed in my feminine, but more importantly, they weren't integrated, so I didn't feel safe even getting into my feminine. And so much of the work that I do with women is to help them feel safe in their feminine, but to do that, they have to have a healthy masculine as well. They have to integrate the masculine and the feminine. And we spend entire chapters in the program, entire weeks, just talking about self-respect and boundaries and keeping your sovereignty and staying in your power. We do that before we even get to, a lot of the juicy feminine stuff, because it's such a key part of our inner foundation. And then the energy when we got into the other part, the second half of the retreat, was all about masculine energy, and the conditions there were very different. During the feminine energy part of the retreat, we did a cruise on the Nile River. We were going to old temples like temples of Isis and temples of Sekhmet came later. I'm forgetting the other ones, but a lot of the goddesses of the Egyptian culture. And in the second half, we went to the desert. We went to this place by the Sahara, or in the Sahara, that is on the border near Libya, and it was really intense conditions. It was sandy and hot and dry and kind of oppressive in many ways, and the culture there was very different. Like, we rarely saw any women. It was mainly men that we saw out and about in the town, and the women that we did see were totally covered, head to toe, other than just a slit for the eyes, but sometimes everything was covered. And so it was almost like there was no feminine. There was no representation of the feminine in the culture. And then in the physical environment, it felt very masculine. It felt very, harsh and spacious and dry and intense, just intense conditions. And it was really interesting to feel the contrast in those two environments, and then feel the contrast in the energy. The energy in the second place and the masculine place is where the pharaohs would do their initiations, where they would do trainings, and I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but it has a more masculine kind of connotation about pushing through your limits and about being strong and about, withstanding the fire and all of that. And what I found in that sort of environment is that it was actually hard for me. Like, I do have plenty of masculine energy, but it was intense. I felt like I needed more sleep. I needed more self-care. I needed more, just rest time and downtime. And I also noticed a lot more my thoughts. Like, when I was in the masculine environment, I noticed myself being hard on myself. I noticed myself judging myself and others. I was just in my head a lot more. I don't know if that's related to being in masculine energy or not, but it's something to think about, if we're really being hard on ourselves, if we're overanalyzing, if our self-talk is negative, if we're feeling kind of dry and brittle and hardened, we probably need a little bit more feminine energy to balance things out. And this happens sometimes in relationship when you're dating or when you're in a relationship for the longer term and you start feeling resentful towards your partner, or you start feeling like you're not enough or he's not enough, or everything is going wrong. Like, it's a cue that maybe you're over indexing right now in the masculine and you need to get back into the feminine, into flow and into your body and into suppleness and forgiveness and compassion and all of those things. But what I failed to mention, sorry, my speech is not very linear today. I'm placing a bunch of things together. But what I failed to mention when I was talking about the feminine aspect is that even though it was really beautiful to be in flow and to feel our emotions and to, be connecting with these energies, it was really challenging for some members of the group. There's a lot of vulnerability, and then there was a lot of closing off after the vulnerability. People would share, and then they would be kind of in their process afterwards. And so neither is better or worse, in terms of feminine and masculine. It's not about that. It's just understanding that when we're in the flow of our feminine, it can be vulnerable and it can make us want to close off. And it can also be very emotional. And some of us, that's hard. Like, it feels like we're losing ourselves or we're losing control. A lot of us think that we're good with going with the flow, but then something changes and we might freak out, or we might start controlling things, or we might start, nitpicking or all of that. And so it was interesting to see and notice the dance of energy in the group and the dance of energy within myself. And what I was saying about the masculine is that I noticed I was harder on myself when I was in that environment and that I needed more self-care. But I also noticed that I was a lot more focused on, what I would call my purpose. Like, what are additional programs that I can offer? What are other ways that I can serve? How can I make my existing program, Queens of Pleasure, even better, even though it's already amazing and our clients get incredible results, like, of course, boyfriends and engagements and weddings, but also more importantly, really finding out who they are and making a stand for who they are. And that might be in their career or in other relationships in their life. But, I felt really inspired. It's the word that I would use. Inspired and visionary. Actually, it's less about visionary. It was more inspired and committed, determined was the sort of energy that I felt when I was in the masculine part of this retreat. And so the theme of this Facebook Live is the theme of the retreat that I was on, and really such a key part of relationships is knowing and understanding that within ourselves and knowing and understanding that within our partner. So a lot of women say, I want a man who just will handle it and who will take care of me and who will, open the door and be chivalrous and who will make a plan. And it does feel like there's a vacuum a bit in the dating world of men who are just kind of casual and going with the flow and not really sure what they want, and maybe a little too much in their emotions and not enough in their sense of direction in their life. But on the other hand, when we have someone as a partner who's really in their masculine, it can feel frustrating. We can feel not heard. We can feel like our emotions don't matter. We can feel like he's trying to fix us all the time. We can feel controlled. We can feel squeezed a little bit, like it's not safe or it's not okay for us to be who we are. So I truly believe that the healthiest partnerships are created when both partners have masculine and feminine energy, which we all do, but when they acknowledge that, and when they're allowing themselves to be both strong but also vulnerable, and when they're allowing themselves to have a plan and an agenda but also go with the flow. And so I'm going to be sharing more about this topic, but I invite you to think about within yourself, do you feel more comfortable in your masculine energy or your feminine energy? Can you create a balance and an integration between the two of those? And if that's something you struggle with, then definitely reach out for help. I've got a ton of videos on YouTube about this, but you can also set up a free discovery call where we can see if we can help you, if this is something that you want support with in your dating life or in your love life. So you can attract a partner who's much more balanced and much more integrated, and then it makes it more sustainable. And I look back over my relationship history and I think about, I just think about how many times I dated someone who hadn't done their work, so to speak. They hadn't really looked at who they were, hadn't really changed who they were in positive ways. And I myself at the time hadn't done my work too, or I had a lot of blind spots. And I didn't really understand this dynamic of masculine and feminine. I mean, truthfully, at the highest levels spiritually, we're all one. Gender is irrelevant. But in the day-to-day of relationship, it makes a difference. You know, the way we show up with our partner and how deeply we understand and can nourish and sustain our masculine and feminine relates to how healthy of a partner that we can attract. So there's so much more that I could say about this, but I'm going to stop there and just invite you to consider your own masculine and feminine energy. I will be talking more about the masculine in the next few weeks. Like I said, have a ton of videos and stuff talking about the feminine, but we'll be talking a little bit more about men and about the masculine within all of us. And again, if this is something that you'd like support with to attract a healthier partner, to create a sustainable relationship, and to just feel more balanced within yourself so that you can have these deep emotions but not lose yourself, and you can have your power in your career and your direction but not be repelling the right sort of person, then you can go to violetlange.com/talk and set up your free discovery session, and we'll see if we can help you. And if we can, we'll talk about next steps and set up some additional time to connect with you. And if we feel like it's not a good fit for you or for us, then we'll send you some resources or point you in another direction to help you get what you want and what you need. But I'm sending you lots of love and lots of health within yourself, within your relationships, and I'm looking forward to continuing the dialogue. Mwah. Bye.